From recently battling cancer to scoring the Afcon winner on home soil for Ivory Coast, this might be the most incredible fairy tale in all of sporting history. This is the story of Sébastien Romain Teddy Haller, born in France on June 22, 1994, in Rizarangus, Essonne. To a French father and an Ivorian mother, Haller began his career in France with Auxerre, where he made his professional debut in 2012. He later moved to Dutch side Utrecht in 2015 before signing on a permanent basis. 2 years later, he was bought for €7 million by the German side Eintracht Frankfurt, where he scored 4 goals in the 2017-18 DFB Pokal, winning his very first trophy. He went on to score 15 goals and provide 9 assists in 29 appearances the following season. West Ham United, recognizing the brilliance of the young forward, decided to buy him for a club record fee of €45 million. Haller struggled to regain his form at West Ham, attributed to the club's change of managers from Manuel Pellegrini to David Moyes, who preferred Michail Antonio up front instead of him, as well as the poor health of his wife and newborn son, among other things. In January, Dutch side Ajax bought him for a club record fee of €22.54 million, reuniting him with former Utrecht manager Erik ten Hag. Ajax was the place where he would take the world by storm. In his first ever Champions League game, he would go on to score 4 goals, becoming the only player since Marco van Basten in 1992 for AC Milan to ever do so. A few months later, he would become the only player alongside Cristiano Ronaldo to score in every single group game in a Champions League season, becoming the fastest player to ever reach 10 goals in the Champions League. He achieved all this while also dominating the Dutch league, scoring 21 goals in 31 games, becoming the top scorer and winning the league. In the year and a half he spent at Ajax, he scored 47 goals and provided 12 assists in 66 appearances, winning the league twice and dominating in Europe. It was clear to the world that Sebastian Haller was a star. Following Erling Haaland's move to Manchester City, Borussia Dortmund profiled Sebastian Haller as the perfect replacement and subsequently spent €31 million to land his signature. And on July 6, 2022, they signed the 6'3" Ivorian, making him the second most expensive signing in the club's history. But the 28-year-old's world would soon come crashing down after being diagnosed with testicular cancer, just when he was at the peak of his career. Haller was forced to take a step back from football, facing a life-or-death situation. Everything that Sebastian Haller had been working for his entire life was put on hold. He endured months of grueling chemotherapy plus multiple operations. Haller revealed he spent, and I quote, 5 days at a time at the hospital where I am hooked up 24/7. But even though he was going through all of this, he still showed up to support his team and even attended games with his family because Sebastian Haller was determined to come back. He trained and rehabilitated day in and day out, harder than most footballers. Against all odds, he recovered, and 6 months after his diagnosis, he was back on the pitch, donning the most iconic football boots ever. On February 4th, 2023, World Cancer Day, he scored his first ever Bundesliga goal for Dortmund, and he somehow managed to end that season as Dortmund's equal top goal scorer and was desperately unlucky not to win the Bundesliga. Fast forward 8 months, and another cruel blow. He got an ankle injury on the eve of Afcon, missing the group stages. Cote D'Ivoire narrowly advanced to the knockout stages, where his return would be epic. The Ivory Coast team achieved the impossible, winning the most insane Afcon tournament ever. From losing 1-0 to Nigeria and 4-0 to Equatorial Guinea in the group stage, there was barely any hope left for Ivory Coast. They fired their head coach in the midst of the tournament, finished third in the group stages, and advanced to the knockout stages after Mozambique miraculously equalized against Ghana with 2 goals in the 91st and 94th minutes, thus eliminating them from the tournament. But now Ivory Coast faced an even bigger challenge in the round of 16 against the reigning champions, Senegal. The Senegalese team took the lead at the start of the match and led until the 86th minute, where Franck Kessie would equalize, sending the game to extra time and eventually to penalties, where Ivory Coast would eventually go on to win 5-4, with Haller scoring his penalty. In the quarterfinals, they faced Mali. They received a red card, which enabled Mali to score. They later equalized in the 90th minute, and in extra time, in the last seconds of the game, in the 122nd minute, Ivory Coast scored again, winning the game 2-1 in what will go down as one of the most dramatic games of football ever played. In the semi-final, they would face DR Congo, where Sebastian Haller, when it mattered the most, stepped it forward and scored a magnificent volley that won Ivory Coast the game 1-0, sending them to the final. Here they faced the Super Eagles Nigeria, who they lost to in the group stage. And again, after trailing behind Nigeria by 1 goal in the first half, Franck Kessie equalized in the second half. With 10 minutes left, Sebastian Haller stepped forward again, scoring an acrobatic wonder goal. The goal won Ivory Coast their 3rd Afcon title through the man who barely a year earlier had cancer. The man who stared death in the eye and said, "No, not me, it's not my time," went on to win Africa's biggest title for his country. This is a story about a human being and a country rising together against all odds to show the world that indeed anything is possible. A fairy tale script. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel.